Well, maybe I should turn my microphone on. Well, wasn't that an episode and a half? Yeah, hello, welcome to SquishiVision, where I give my thoughts on forms of media. And this is my immediate live reaction, having just watched Chapter 14 of Mandalorian, the tragedy. So this is kind of my unbridled, unorganised thoughts about the episode. There's going to be no kind of consistency, a lot of mumbling and erring and me pondering, but that's what you're going to get. I've also realised something weird. If I put my hand here and then my webcam focus on my hand, then even me out here becomes... let me try and... It happened earlier, so I'm doing it now. You might have realised in the last couple of weeks I've been kind of bothered by how I don't seem to be in focus on my webcam. I'm not sure why, because I should still be in focus. You can kind of see happening there, where if it focuses something a bit closer, then when I move back, I brighten. I think it's the auto exposure. Maybe I need to turn the auto exposure off. I'll try that afterwards, so I don't look so really like luminescent and blurry compared to my background, which is weird. The other problem is that when that happens, it changes the chroma key settings. Anyway, you're not here to talk about my visual effects issues on my camera work. You're here to talk about Mandalorian. Yeah. Firstly, Jaren is such a good dad. The Mandalorian is such a good dad. Like just the entire the cold opening bit when he's like just playing with when he's like amused because he can get Grogu to react to his name, and then the way he's trying to teach Grogu to use the Force, and you can hear the sadness in his voice when he's trying to explain to Grogu that he has to let him go. And then his entire throughout the whole episode, he's just such a good dad. When he's trying Grogu is trying to use a seeing stone. There's a random flash showers happening here in Newcastle, and it just comes so suddenly. It's a bit surprising. It sounds like it's a sudden gas leak. I mean, it might be a gas leak. If I collapse, then it's a gas leak. Yeah, and then there's when he's trying to protect Grogu, and he's Grogu's not responsive because he's kind of in his seeing mode, and he's just okay, well, fine, I'll protect you. Just by the time, he's such a good dad. Oh, I love the relationship between them two. Such a good picture of parenting. God, this episode is full of a lot. So, literally seconds after arriving on the planet, which I've blanked on the name of, he is followed by Slave One, which is oh my god, it's Slave One. I'm pretty sure it's probably Slave One. And I was oh, maybe this is a fake out. We're teasing towards Boba returning because we see his armor, then we see Boba briefly at the end of the first episode, and now we see Slave One, and I guess down the line we might see Boba return. And no, it's actually, yeah, it turns out that we see it's Boba Fett. It's so great to see Timur Robinson back in the role as Fett, and hearing him speak. It's difficult because outside of Moana, I've not seen Morrison anything else. So I've not seen Morrison anything outside the last film would be 2005's Revenge of the Sith. Obviously, I've watched Revenge of the Sith since then, but and also he's voiced Django and the clones, a whole bunch of things. He voiced them in Battlefront, which I grew up playing, and he voiced Django in Bounty Hunter video game, and a whole bunch of other kind of expanded media. So the voice I'm probably more familiar with his voice than him, at least his voice in this role, at the very least. And then obviously it's been a 15-year gap between seeing Morrison in Revenge of the Sith and seeing Morrison in The Gunslinger, the first episode of this season. So when I first saw him, I'm pretty sure this is Morrison, but obviously 15-year aging is... What's a weird noise? Am I making weird noises? Is something making a weird noise? Now, where's the weird noise? I can't hear what you're hearing, so I don't know if there's a weird noise or not. Where was I? Yeah, so I was pretty sure when I saw him in Gunslinger, I thought it was Morrison. But it was a bit like that kind of when you see someone who's like 15 years older, and not to be rude to Morrison, more wrinkly and aged. It's kind of me like, I need to double check this who I think it is. And I checked and I was like, okay, great. It's Morrison, he's back, and it's clearly, it's clearly I guess also because he's bald. And Jango Fett and Boba Fett, when we saw them last, weren't bald. So it's like that kind of, I guess, also throws me. But yeah, and so it's like, okay, he's back, but I'm not really getting that visual connection because he looks so much unlike Boba Fett. But then he comes here and like the way he talks and fuzzy hum. It's probably me not putting a filter on this. I guess I can do that now. I'll fix it afterwards. I should have fixed it here. It's on one of my other channels. It's not this one. I'm pretty sure I put a filter on this. Did I not put a filter on this? Let me slap a filter on it. It's probably. I've got a noise gate, not a filter. Noise suppression. Okay, hopefully that's got rid of it. But I can't test because I can't listen to what I'm saying as I'm saying it. Oh, it's gone. Well, okay, well, whatever. Where was I? So, the person commenting, my friend, on my chat, has been very distracting by the quality of my sound, which is fair, but I'm trying to do the thing. No, it's fair because I need to fix it. I need to be reminded. I should have checked beforehand. I'm a bad streamer. Sue me. Oh well, don't sue me. So I only get 2 views in these things. Anyway, so seeing Morrison in this episode actually speak and say lines that I would know Boba Fett would say, and saying lines, and he even quotes his father. And it's like, oh yeah, Boba, you're back, mate. It was fantastic. And then seeing Morrison actually get to do some action and fight was great. Because a lot of what the Fetts are held, the esteem they're held in amongst. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You're right to call out my bad sound quality, and at least I know to fix it now. I love what the Fett stand for in the Star Wars fandom is very much over embellished. Embellished? That's the word, isn't it? Over exaggerated in any case. Because really Fett was more kind of just that background character in Empire Strikes Back and in Return of the Jedi, and he kind of had some cool bits in Return of the Jedi. He has cool bits in Empire Strikes Back while he was talking, but then he goes up fairly easily. And then obviously the expanded universe and kind of fan reaction to him kind of blew that all up. So seeing an actual badass Fett in this episode was great. I also think Ming Hua come back as Fennec was great. It just seemed a bit odd. Like it is essentially established that Fett just put like a cybernetics into her belly, and that was the solve. That just seemed odd. I think I would have just accepted the fact that he found and nursed her back to life, because that's pretty much a thing that happens, especially in expanded universes, and I'm not really cool with that. But that just that weird thing where she peels off kind of her belly strap and there's like just robotics in her belly. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine too. We can go that route. But yeah, it was great. It was also great seeing all three of them work as a team together, like these 3 bounty hunters. Like it was just such a great like Western moment, I suppose. Nice little standoff. Speaking of standoff, it was kind of amusing how the stormtroopers were. Like they were comic relief, but not to expense and making them too foolish. Except for the part where a rock falls towards them, and they, I'm going to quote CinemaSins here, go to follow the Pandorica school of running, theory of just running away rather than to the side. It's even more stupid when the guy is just trying to shoot thing. I can understand him shooting it to try and blow it up before it reaches the Gatling gun, so they can salvage the Gatling gun. But once it becomes clear that rock is going to hit you, then I jumped, tactically a few seconds before. Like, I commend his bravery, but there's a point where you realize it's not gonna succeed. But also on the flip side, you think Fennec as a sharpshooter would have noticed them setting up the Gatling gun out in the open with absolutely no cover and shot them way before they got closer. Then again, I do play. There's a scenario common in a lot of action video games where you're kind of under siege from a whole bunch of enemies, and one of them starts setting up a gun, but you're too busy shooting the ones who are close to you to focus on shooting those. So I suppose there is kind of, I can't really complain on being a hypocrite otherwise. And then we get the most significant bit of lore. So it's been historically unclear if Jango Fett's Mandalorian or not. The Mandalorians were very much developed out of Boba Fett's kind of first appearance, and then the backstory behind him. He was part of this kind of group of warriors called the Mandalorians, and that expanded hugely in the expanded universe. And then obviously once we get to, and obviously a lot of that's kind of altered all over the years, and it became very kind of unclear. And then I think the first time this was actually made was during the Clone Wars, I think season 4, when we first have the Mandalorian arc, or storylines at least. And Almec, the Prime Minister of Mandalore, is like, Jango Fett's not a Mandalorian. He's basically just someone who nicked the armor. And I think that caused a lot of backlash because people saw the Fetts as like the most famous Mandalorians. So to kind of reverse that and be like, well, actually, no, they weren't. It annoyed a lot of people. I never saw it that way. I always saw it how it's now the case. And I thought this was pretty clear that this was the Mandalorian government being revisionistic and disavowing Fett, pretending he's not part of their culture because obviously of his reputation and because they were trying to move towards a pacifist society. And it seems pretty consistent with how the Mandalorians have been depicted since, in terms of the politics that they would do this. But it was very unclear about what the actual stance in terms of canon was Fett a Mandalorian, or was he not a Mandalorian? And it's bad. It's been ever since the episode, which I think would have been 10, but maybe around the last 10 years, it's been a thing of contention among fans. So finally, this episode, it clarifies that Jango wasn't a foundling, much like Jaren is, and so a legit Mandalorian. It does cause still some lack of clarity because Fett at least claims or is described as being born on the Mandalorian settlement, which would make him. I mean, I don't really understand what a foundling is fully. I don't think the show's gone into much detail. I think we're meant to assume it as someone who isn't native born on a Mandalorian land, but is adopted by the culture and therefore becomes Mandalorian by extension. So if he was born where he said he was born, then he wouldn't need to be a foundling because he'd be Mandalorian anyway. But that was never confirmed even in character. Like, he was always ambiguous. So, and I guess it's kind of, we can make an assumption that he was adopted and took to that planet, and that's where he kind of grew up as a Mandalorian. But he is now confirmed a Mandalorian, albeit a foundling, but those are still legit Mandalorians. So Boba Fett doesn't identify as Mandalorian, but he's inherited the armor, so he still gets to wear it, according to Jaren's beliefs anyway. So that's a nice kind of clarification, and it was natural as well. Like, it was the most natural way to clarify that, without it being too obvious that what it was clarifying. Like, it made sense that the Jaren would be the person you'd want to clear details with, but it also lets the audience now know. So that's great. So yeah, we got that bit of tidbit, which I thought was fantastic. And the whole action pieces were great. Like I said, it was great to see Morrison get a lot of action bits. Or him, or at least a stunt double. I'm not going to assume it was all his acting, but I'm sure they gave him some stuff to do. He seems a very physically capable actor. I never understood why So we see that Fett asks the Mandalorian Jaren to put his jetpack down during the kind of standoff, and then once they see the Imperial ships arrive, they all rush into position to kind of defend and to get the child back. And Mando just doesn't bother picking up his jetpack, or even, I mean, he can control it remotely, summoning it at any point, which is obviously there to add tension to the plot, where he's running back to try and save the child before the Dark Troopers steal him away. But it just doesn't occur to me why he. Apparently, it's very easy to simply reattach and put add it. I don't know what. I mean, the time he lost, the time he saved not from Macron, he would have picked up by flying anyway. It seemed bizarre he didn't use his jetpack, is what I'm saying. And did he ever get his jetpack back? We never see it after the point of the episode. Not clear what happens to the jetpack, which is a bit amusing, I suppose. But it did bother me that was never addressed. Dark Troopers, though, we get to see them, I think, for the first time in live action, possibly. I mean, there's Darkish Troopers we see in Rogue One. I don't know if they're the same type, because I know there's a form of Dark Troopers in Star Wars, which is basically just like droids, essentially, or cyborgs. It's not clear which ones they are. I think they're droids. I remember playing them a whole bunch in Battlefront, so it's nice to see them. We lost a Razor Crest. I was actually sad. That ship was such a nice little ship, and it was nice that, I mean, they've destroyed the Razor Crest, and then, like, after all the effort, they've gone to a little side quest to try and fix that ship, and now it just got shot down and blown up, almost very unceremoniously. It's that kind of sudden death thing you get in fiction, which really hits you hard, even though it's a ship. I guess I can relate. I'm playing a game of Traveller at the moment, and I'm probably the one and our ships become like extremely damaged. I think most of the other players want to just scrap it and get a new ship, and I'm the one who's like, no, it's our ship. We have to save the ship. So I can relate. Although it's bizarre how subdued Jaren's reaction to the child being kidnapped. I haven't changed my background. Why didn't nobody tell me? This is extraordinarily very upsetting. Still from last week's background. There we go, that's fixed. But no, I just pointed out the whole webcam issue. Yeah, he was very subdued. Like, you expect, I mean, considering the emotional investment, I know he's a very kind of cold and emotive character by definition of the mask, but we've also seen his cracks of emotion when it comes to Grogu. It's kind of bizarre that he was very subdued and actually losing the child, considering this is a big deal. Like, the entire finale of last season was preventing the Empire from even getting their hands on the child, on Grogu, never mind getting their hands on them and successfully taking him away, where God knows what else could happen to him. So he's lost the child. He's like, well, guess I'll take some time to wander around the remains of my ship. I guess he was looking for like his Beskar stuff, and fair enough. But and then he it just seemed very like doesn't seem to be like a rush. Is what I'm saying. It wasn't like, God, let's get into the ship and fly and try and take I don't know. Maybe, I guess he's being a bit of a realist, and that's consistent with the character. But you'd expect a bit more emotion, I suppose. Even though his strategy seems very calm, and I expect no emotion. But yeah, oh god, that episode felt so fast. Like, I think it was only just over half an hour, like 34 minutes long, and God, it ended where it ended. I was like, no, don't end yet. This is the first time this season, because I've come on the pacing, and I think the pacing's very slow, but I think that works in its favour for the most part. But it is slow pacing. It takes its time. There's a lot of filler, which I think is good because I like it. It's exploring the universe. This was the episode where it's like, oh god, the momentum is there. Let's carry on. Let's see what happens, and we don't, and it's like, I really want next week to be around here now. I want to see what happens. Chapter 14, right? So there's 2 more episodes left. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Let us know what you think. And I'm going to watch Discovery now. So you can see that on my blog later on. Cheers for watching. See you next time. Bye.